As he glanced to the side, he was shocked to see a girl flying while controlling 2 cars with her mental abilities. With complete confidence, Zhang Yi launched the cars toward the enemy without hesitation. Of course, such an attack was not enough to defeat them, and the enemy quickly mounted a defense. The girl looked highly satisfied, declaring that this was revenge for their previous attack on the Snow Sect. Zhang Yi observed the explosions among the enemy ranks and felt pleased. This signified that the Snow Sect had kept its promise, which was highly beneficial to him. Inside the stronghold, everyone was enjoying a special meal prepared by Yang Mi. After replenishing their energy, they quickly went outside to assist the Snow Sect members in clearing out the remaining enemy forces. Meanwhile, Tian was stunned when he realized that the Snow Sect had allied with Zhang Yi. He was overjoyed, knowing that without the sacrifices of the Snow Sect members, his own forces would have perished. With most of the soldiers from the other major factions now dead, the King Pu base was poised to become the city's strongest military power. On the battlefield, Pamanu and Chun handled long-range attacks with their exceptional abilities, while Lien engaged in close combat, eliminating enemy faction soldiers. Zhang Yi, wearing a sly smile, felt extremely confident in his victory. He used precision shooting to strike down mutant soldiers who were unable to withstand his power. Hong Lian noticed that Tian had still not appeared and began to suspect that he might have fled, or worse, betrayed them. Wing Hai remarked that the worst-case scenario would be if Tian turned against them, just as the Snow Sect had. Feeling hopeless, Hong Lian ordered a retreat before they were completely annihilated. However, retreating would not be easy, as Snow Sect members blocked their path. Hong Lian took a deep breath, drank from his flask, and unleashed his fire abilities to clear a way through. But the sheer number of enemies overwhelmed him, exhausting his energy. Despite his fatigue, he continued fighting with the help of Wei Dinghai, and eventually, they reached their vehicles and managed to escape, saving some of their troops. However, among the rescued soldiers, Huairen, the excavator driver, was missing. He attempted to flee, but Zhang Yi coldly shot him in the head. As the battle ended, the Snow Sect, led by Zhang Yian, began celebrating their victory. Zhang Yi realized that the Snow Sect members had no fear of death, as they willingly detonated themselves in the middle of enemy ranks. He concluded that he must avoid conflict with them in the future, as any battle against them would be extremely costly. Although he had killed many enemies, Zhang Yi contacted Tian and offered him the remaining resources. However, Tian replied that he was busy with something important and would come later. Zhang Yi then went down to check on his team and found them in good condition. He instructed them to rest, as they had achieved victory. Amid the celebrations, only Lien remained filled with rage. Zhang Yi tried to calm him down, reminding him that the battle was over and that they had avenged his fallen disciples. Exhausted, Lien collapsed, and Zhang Yi quickly caught him. Realizing that Lien had recklessly fought alone against an army, Zhang Yi carried him inside. Seeing Lien's severe injuries, he immediately called for Yokier to provide medical treatment. Zhang Yi carefully placed Lien on a bed, and Yokier swiftly began tending to his wounds. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi spoke with the Snow Sect members, declaring that the Shirshan base and its surrounding areas were now under his control and that no one was allowed to enter without his permission. The girl leading the Snow Sect accepted these terms and expressed her gratitude to Zhang Yi for helping them win the war. According to their agreement, no Snow Sect members, except for designated missionaries, were allowed to approach the territory. On behalf of the entire sect, the girl thanked him and expressed hope for peaceful coexistence. Zhang Yi agreed, stating that he, too, was a believer in peace. Observing the Snow Sect, he noted that their numbers were large despite other bases' attempts to limit their recruitment. Now, with their newfound freedom, the Snow Sect was bound to grow rapidly. Although this posed a significant future problem for Zhang Yi, he had no other choice if he wanted to win against the military base. He approached the bodies of fallen warriors with abilities and was shocked to find that he could not absorb their energy. Deciding to preserve the bodies until he could understand what was happening, Zhang Yi ordered his followers to go inside and rest while he dealt with the wounded enemy soldiers. The mutant cat leaped onto his back, delighted to be by the side of such a powerful master. Meanwhile, far away, forces from the Yangsheng and Koyu bases paused. Wing Hai was furious that the Snow Sect and King Pu base had betrayed them. Hong Lian, equally enraged, suspected that Tian had received a large amount of resources in exchange for his betrayal. As revenge for his betrayal, Hong Lian attempted to contact Tian, but Wei stopped him and urged him to calm down. Wei Dinghai explained that only the Snow Sect had officially betrayed them. King Pu's forces had not attacked, they had merely observed from a distance. Wing Hai did not attempt to justify Tian's actions, but he knew that Tian was a coward who avoided confrontation. Still furious, Hong Lian argued that Tian had broken their agreement and must pay for his actions. Wing Hai then reminded him that they were in a dire situation, with many wounded soldiers. If they attempted to confront Tian now, they could end up trapped in a battle that would completely destroy them. Before they could continue their discussion, a loud noise came from Tian's troops and his pet beasts. Hong Lian stormed out of the vehicle, his rage boiling over, and directly confronted Tian, demanding an explanation for why he was there now. Tian calmly explained that Hong Lian and Wing Hai's bases possessed an abundance of resources, and he only wanted a small portion of them. Wing Hai, already enraged, pointed out that Tian could have obtained those resources if he had allied with them instead of betraying them. Tian explained that his base was weaker compared to the others, and even if it grew, maintaining control would be difficult. Therefore, he had accepted Zhang Yi's offer and made a peace agreement in exchange for 10 tons of resources. Now, he was ready to collect food as part of that peace deal. If they refused, a battle would be inevitable. Meanwhile, at Zhang Yi's stronghold, a grand feast was taking place. Zhang Yi ordered his followers to eat until they were full, then personally brought food to Yokier, using the opportunity to check on Lian's condition. Yokier informed him that the operation had been successful, and since Lian was a mutant, he would heal quickly despite the severity of his wounds. Zhang Yi, known as a ruthless figure on the battlefield, gently cupped Yokier's cheek and declared that he was irreplaceable due to his exceptional medical skills. At the Snow Sect headquarters, the sect leader awaited the arrival of Zhang Isen's team. Zhang Isen reported that they had successfully completed their mission and inflicted significant damage on the Koyu and Yangxing bases. Yuan Kongye was pleased and expressed gratitude for their efforts. However, Zhang Yan mourned the loss of many sect members, including 2 high-ranking priests. Yuan reassured him that their deaths were acts of heroism, and true heroes never truly die. Feeling inspired by the possibility of expansion, Yuan stated that with the other bases now weakened, he intended to recruit every person in Tianhai City into the sect. Inside Zhang Yi's bunker, the girls enjoyed their leisure time, each engaged in their own entertainment. Lian went downstairs to retrieve something, while Chun curiously asked if Lian was feeling better. Lian did not respond and quickly left. Ken stated that she needed time to recover both physically and mentally. Zhang Yi mentioned that the Xiangxing and Koyu bases had suffered heavy losses and that there would be no major movements for a while. As he spoke, Zhang Yi glanced out the window and was shocked to see that the area outside looked completely clean. There were no signs of the bodies that had been there the night before. In less than 10 hours, everything had been cleared. Zhang Yi grabbed a pair of binoculars to examine the area and was stunned to find it completely empty. He began to wonder if the changing world could cause the dead to rise as zombies, like in horror movies. To verify his theory, he quickly put on his gear and went outside without explaining the real reason to his followers, so as not to scare them. He simply stated that he was going out to check something quickly. Outside, he discovered countless footprints in the snow. More than 1,000 people had moved away from the shelter. No one had entered the area, but some had left. There could only be one terrifying explanation: those bodies had risen and moved on their own. Moments later, a sound behind him startled him. When he turned to see what it was, he found nothing. It seemed that his fear of zombies was beginning to take over his mind, but he quickly calmed himself down, reminding himself that there was no need to be afraid. After all, he had killed living people before, he could certainly kill the undead. He continued following the footprints for some time, realizing that they all led away from the shelter. After a while, he returned home to inform his allies. Before starting, he asked everyone to take a deep breath and relax, as what he was about to say was something that could only be seen in movies. He announced that the thousands of bodies outside the shelter had vanished without a trace. Some of the group questioned whether Zhang Yi was joking. Chun suspected that Zhang Yi had moved the bodies himself as some sort of prank. However, Zhang Yi insisted that he was serious and was just as shocked as they were. Determined to uncover the truth, Zhang Yi ordered his followers with special abilities to prepare, as they would be investigating the footprints together. After eating, they got into their vehicles and followed the footprints in the snow until they reached an underground tunnel. Exiting their vehicles, they cautiously approached, unsure of what they might find. As they neared the tunnel, they were shocked to see human footprints inside it. Chun suspected that someone with the ability to control corpses might be behind this incident. Lian suggested that it was possible but highly unlikely since controlling thousands of bodies at once was nearly impossible. Chun, now trembling, asked if they were dealing with zombies, just like in the movies. Zhang Yi replied that he hoped it was just zombies, as the undead would never be more dangerous than humans. Especially in the cold, where they would gather in clusters and be easy to detect. Zhang Yi explained that if zombies were truly present, it would be better than facing someone who could control the dead. Pamanu finally recognized the location. It was the Jiayuan residential complex, where he had lived for a while. He explained that the tunnel led to an underground subway station. Zhang Yi quickly realized the situation. The tunnel had been dug long ago, and the zombies could have wandered inside or fallen in by accident. Lien suggested that perhaps someone was controlling the bodies and living inside the subway station to escape the freezing temperatures outside. Pamanu, unsure of what to do, asked Zhang Yi for his opinion. If they entered the tunnel recklessly and encountered someone controlling the dead, they would have to face tens of thousands of zombies. Even if it was only zombies, they could be dealing with tens of thousands of former Tianhai residents, making the situation just as dangerous. Realizing that both scenarios posed too great a risk, Zhang Yi decided to avoid the area entirely. At an old building, Zhang Yi and Lin Jian received a visit from an elderly woman who claimed to be able to see the power of the Snow Sect. Everyone welcomed the woman with deep respect. She declared that Lin Jian had successfully harnessed the power of the Snow God, signifying that he was a righteous person. She also conveyed that the leader of the Snow Sect wanted to meet him immediately. The woman explained that they were on the verge of creating a utopia, and Lin Jian deserved to be a part of it. Lin Jian was advised to pack his belongings and bring his family. The leader of the sect greatly appreciated his abilities and believed that his power was essential. Lin Jian bowed and expressed his gratitude, praising the great snow god. He was willing to offer his strength to them. However, before he could start packing, the woman warned him that the sect leader wanted to meet him in person immediately. Lin Jian intended to wait for his wife and child, who were preparing to leave, but the woman assured him that the sect would take care of that later. The residents urged Lin Jian not to worry, promising to look after his wife and child. Lin Jian was asked to leave at once and answer the call of the gods. They walked towards the grand church in the village, where the snow god's representative awaited. Upon entering, Lin Jian was surprised to see that the sect leader was a woman. As if reading his thoughts, the elderly woman explained that the image of a god could take many forms, depending on who perceived it. Lin Jian did not question it. Instead, he introduced himself with the utmost respect. The high priestess of the snow sect acknowledged that he possessed great power, just as she had been told. From that moment on, Lin Jian would become a priest in the Order of Snow. Feeling his blood boil with excitement, Lin Jian bowed deeply, declaring his willingness to give his all and expressing his eagerness to learn from the master. Satisfied with his response, the sect leader instructed Lin Jian to follow her to another place. Lin Jian was taken aback, as he had not expected this. Before him stood a massive tree. Its trunk expanded and contracted gently, as if it were breathing. The high priestess explained that this was the sacred tree she had studied and cultivated. Its roots could extend hundreds of meters into the ground, absorbing nutrients and producing fruit. These fruits were of great importance to the sect. She then offered one of the sacred fruits to Lin Jian, inviting him to try it.